the button. All right, I think we're live. At least that's what the watch page says on YouTube. So I'll just get into the intro. What's going on, guys? It's Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again. One of your co-hosts for the Xbox 2 podcast, and hopefully everything's sounding good. It's the second week of this OBS and Discord because Google got rid of Hangouts. So hopefully everything sounds good. I apologize if there is any, echo or any, something wrong. I didn't really change any of the settings from last week, so hopefully everything's still good. But I welcome everybody to the live stream. I'm one of your hosts, and with me, as always, the one and only Jez Corden. What's going on, Jez?
Sup, man? I have had sleep. My God, it's nice to have actually had some sleep. You got any sleep? I like having sleep. It means I'm not falling asleep in the middle of the show, which sucks for those who are listening. But I've had a pretty good week, very productive. Had a big hit article at the weekend, thanks to your boy Ninja.
So you were saying beforehand that article might have been, or at least was on track to be one of your best articles ever? Or like traffic-wise?
It trailed off in the end, as news articles often do, because news stops being news very quickly. But what happened was on Sunday, Ninja had a bit of a fallout with Twitch. We'll probably talk about it a bit later. And I work on Sundays because I'm a loser, and I was the first to it. And I couldn't believe how it exploded. It was all over Google News. There was a lot of interest in that piece. Oh, and Rand, people are complaining that I'm too quiet.
Okay, I'm turning you up a little bit.
Jez volume is too low versus Ram, right? Jez volume, it's with Hadlow. Right, we'll sort that. And I will edit the MP3 in post-processing before we upload it to the podcast channel. Hopefully, maybe. We'll see.
All right. I turned you up basically to the same level my mic is, so...
Is that better? Is Jez using a PS4 headset? I'm using the good Turtle Beach headset. Sounds good to me. Snatch your headset. Okay, brilliant. So, yeah, that was my week, Rand. Productive, drama, mixer, and all that stuff. How was your week?
My week was pretty good, okay? I actually got into a show on Netflix. Because I've been kind of in a watching TV kind of mood, waiting for Control and Man of Medan and all the big games coming out this holiday. I kind of got into, you know what, there's some shows I wanted to watch on Netflix. So I watched Mindhunter Season 1 in preparation for Season 2 coming tonight. Absolutely loved it, right? Absolutely loved that show. I recommend it. But man, the last few days, I really got into... The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix.
What's that?
It's kind of like a horror show on Netflix, and God, I love that show. It's probably out of all the shows I've watched this year, I think Chernobyl's the best. And The Boys.
I haven't seen that.
You should watch Chernobyl whenever you get a chance. And The Boys was amazing as well. But oh my God, I just fell in love with The Haunting of Hill House. So it's just kind of one of those things where it's I'm just kind of waiting for Control to come out at this point. So we did a little game, okay? My friends on Xbox Live. So I have a group of people that I normally play PUBG with, and I've known for a long time. They might show up in here and chat. Well, one of them shows up in chat. His name's Loveboat Gopher. Shout out to my boy Gopher. So we did this kind of game. Everybody always complains about backlog, right? Everybody always complains about your backlog and how many games you have in it and stuff like that. And so we did this little thing where you put down 6 games from your backlog that you want to play, right? And then the other people, so in my case, my buddy Magic, my buddy Maka, my buddy Sam, and my buddy Gopher, they voted on 2 of those games. And whichever game won the vote, that's the game you got to play from your backlog. Right?
Interesting.
Yeah, so we did that, and Well, Maka didn't want to do a long game, right? And he wanted to do like a short, easy achievement game, because he's into that. So he ended up having to play Costume Quest 2, which, whatever, Costume Quest 2. Gopher had to play Portal 2. Sam had to play Portal 2. Magic had to play Tokyo 42. And what game they voted for me to play?
What?
Deus Ex Mankind Divided.
That's not bad.
No, and it's a game I do want to play. And
have you played Human Rev?
Yes, Human Revolution is absolutely amazing. And
I played Mankind Divided. Like, I just sort of dropped off. It's one of those games that just couldn't hold my attention. But I was enjoying it. I might go back to it at some point.
Yeah, so
it just felt like it didn't have the depth as the first game. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's the game I'll be playing, probably leading up to Control, because then once Control comes out, it's like literally 3 games that week I want to play. Control, Man of Medan, and Blair Witch. And then there's Gears 5 and Borderlands, which I'll be getting as well. So it's a whole bunch of stuff. Whole bunch of games. But yeah, we're actually going to continue doing that too. Not necessarily like
playing the same game, weirdly.
What?
All the games you're interested in, I'm not interested in. I don't care about Borderlands. I don't really care about Control.
But because it was such like a success, and everybody wants to get rid of games from their backlog, but then you just don't. So we did this little game, and everybody seems to like it. So we'll probably continue to do it in the future, where like your friends pick the game from your backlog that you have to play. So that's what we'll do. But yeah,
we can make it a thing. We can make it a thing, man.
We could. But I also want to say this is the 100th episode of the Xbox 2 podcast. I see a lot of people saying, congrats, J-Main and Salty. Thanks for everybody for being here. 100 episodes of the podcast. Let me ask you this first question, though, Jez. Did you think we'd make it to 100 episodes?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. Did you
I didn't really think about it.
Did you think?
I honestly haven't been counting. I'm surprised that it's 100.
Did you think that when we first kind of had this idea where we would talk in Skype, and you kind of were like, "Hey, we should do a podcast," and we're like, "Yeah," that here we would be 2.5 years later, essentially still doing
2.5 years.
Yeah, because we started it right in the beginning of March 2017, I believe it was.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like that long. Where's the time gone? Rad, we're all getting old. That's how I feel about this. But thanks to everyone for the support. It's amazing, the amount of support that we get. I mean, I know you get a lot of support, I get a lot of support. And it's really awesome to meet all the cool people out there. So thank you so much for sticking with us for 100 episodes. Rand.
100 more to go.
100 more to go. We should start this, man. We should start this podcast with what we've been playing this week, maybe.
All right, yeah. We'll get into the usual stuff. Letting people know what the topics will be going forward after the games played segment, which mine will be short because I don't think I've played really anything. Kind of took like a week off of gaming or whatever. We have Matt Booty's comments. And IGN and all these places talking about, Xbox games going to PlayStation, so I thought we'd talk about Xbox going third party. What me and Jess think about all that. The Ps5 Reveal Leak that happened. We'll give our thoughts on that. We're going to preview Gamescom and basically tell you if you should be hyped. And if E3 is anything to go by, probably not.
E3 wasn't that bad.
What the hell? Jez wrote an article about Xbox fans begging for games, or it sucks that Xbox fans have to beg for games. We'll talk about that. Phil Spencer basically saying that streaming is years and years and years and years away from being mainstream, and that they have no streaming console planned. I have a Splinter Cell rant I'll get into, because my God, it seems like they're going to bring back the franchise as a mobile game, and I swear to God, if they do, I'm going to be so pissed. And the death of BioWare, presumably more tied to the death of Anthem. And then whatever else we kind of get into, if you guys have any suggestions in chat, I'm always watching it. So thanks for being here, everybody. If you want to hit the like button, we'd appreciate that, and share this out on Twitter or Facebook or wherever. Hit the subscribe button, follow Jez, and the link in the description. And yeah, let's get into what we're playing. I know what you've been playing, Jez. World of Warcraft, and you'll yell at me because Ren won't let me talk about World of Warcraft on the podcast, and it's brand new. It's World. All right, what have you been playing, Jez?
Not World of Warcraft. Actually, I haven't been playing World of Warcraft. Well, I logged on quickly to reserve the names for WoW Classic, which comes out in a week. And I've noticed that some of the Xbox team are going to play WoW Classic, like Mikey Barra for the Horde, and some of the people like that. So that's interesting. But I haven't been playing that much. I'm sort of like I'm still playing Monster Hunter World, trying to finish off the stuff that I didn't finish ahead of Iceborne coming out, which is pretty soon, at least for me in the review program. That game's going to be massive, I think. So I'm looking forward to that. Other than that, I haven't really been playing too much. I played Overwatch, tried the new hero out, Sigma. He's a tank with psychic powers, and he's pretty awesome. It's fun to play. Also been playing a bit of Battlefield here and there. Battlefield fans don't seem to be particularly happy. Like, you go on the Battlefield subreddit, there's a lot of complaints about the slow pace of content and stuff like that. And that sort of thing. But, and also I've been playing this this early access strategy game called Depraved, right?
Okay.
Now, it's a survival strategy game where you basically try and live in Red Dead Redemption. You're a prospector, and you found a small town in sort of a procedurally generated Wild West world. And you have to survive, living off the land, building farms, setting up your economy, managing bandits, and managing like wildlife, killing your townspeople people and stuff like that. It's a really cool game. Like, if you like strategy games and you like the Wild West, check out Depraved on Steam. It's really fun. It's a bit janky and low budget, but can't win them all. That's pretty much it, man. I haven't been playing a whole lot else besides that. Mostly just grinding Monster Hunter, which, the grind is real in Monster Hunter. Absolutely real.
Can I ask you a question about World of Warcraft? Since I don't really know anything about it. For the Horde and for the Alliance, what does that really mean?
It's like a war cry, I guess. I don't actually know the origin of it. Actually, that's interesting. I don't actually know where it comes from originally. I presume like one of the characters says it in a cutscene or something. But it's like the battle cry. Like, the Horde says for the Horde, and then they charge, and then the Alliance say for the Alliance, and then they charge, and stuff like that. Like, if you in game, if you type / for the Horde, your character cheers and says for the Horde and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I always see that. Like, people are so you can choose. Okay, well, shout out to the newest member of the channel, Defunct Jester. I appreciate that. I never really talk about the channel members. Maybe I need to like spruce that up, but right next to the subscribe button is the join. It's basically $5 a month. It's kind of like a subscription to Twitch or Mixer. It just helps support the channel, and you get like a little icon and badges, which I need to I'll probably ask Colt to make some stuff. So I really appreciate that, man. Welcome to the channel. But because, so do you, I don't know anything about World of Warcraft, right? At all. So, do you choose, when you're making your character, do you choose to either be with the Alliance and you play with that on that server, or play as the Horde on that server? So it's like that thing, like who you kind of play as, I guess? Or am I completely off base on that?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Like,
a lag or something there.
Is there? I would say it's two sides of the conflict, right? Horde versus the Alliance. So do you build a character and want to be the Horde, so you play with Horde on a server, or then you pick, if you don't want to, you pick the Alliance and then you're on the Alliance server? Is that how that works?
No. The way it works is, right, you're all on the same server, and players who pick Horde play together with players who are Horde, and players who pick Alliance play together with players of Alliance. You can't see what the Horde and Alliance say. Like, if have you seen people say kek, K-E-K, instead of lol? That comes from when an orc player says lol in say, a human player sees kek, K-E-K. That's where that comes from. So like you can't actually communicate. And there's two different types of server type. There's a PvP server and PvE server. PvE servers, you can't kill each other except in battlegrounds. PvP servers, you can kill alliance players wherever they are, no matter what level they are, no matter what they're doing. You can go up to them and grief them, kill a low-level player, stab him in the back, force him to do a corpse respawn at a spirit healer and do a corpse run. It's fun, man. Like a lot of the reason why people yearn for WoW Classic is because Blizzard, the old game was like pure chaos. Like in on PvP servers, the old game was pure chaos. There was no real protections in place. Like the cities have guards in them now, so players can get their quests and stuff. But back in the day, people just used to grief and gank and kill people in cities and towns and stuff like that. It was pure chaos and it was fun, you know. People used to like raid towns, and people don't really do that anymore because the NPCs are so powerful. Because Blizzard decided, oh, it's not a good user experience if a new player gets killed by a huge raid, you know. But it kind of is a good experience, you know. It's exciting when you see a huge army coming down into your city. But Blizzard nerfed all the fun, and that's what WoW Classic is. It's like that sort of unpoliced version of WoW that people have been yearning for.
All right. Well, that's good. Anyways, to what I've played, which is basically nothing of note. Like I said, I kind of had been Netflix and chilling, watching TV shows, kind of catching up on some things. I didn't really game this week. I know, shame on me, right? Shame on me for not gaming, you know? But, you know, I've gamed so much, Jazz, these past, 360 gen, this gen, that I can take a week off. I've gamed more than most people. You know what I mean? I'm obliged to take a week off here and there. You know, Dealer and Colt, they give me crap all the time. They're like, oh, you gonna go watch a TV show now? Like, yeah, I feel like it. You gonna get a million gamer score now and play a bunch of games? Yeah, I didn't think so. You know? So, yeah. My week was pretty much Haunting of Hill House for the most part.
People are calling you Randall Fraud now.
Yeah, I know. There's a bunch of Randall Fraud and a whole bunch of stuff. By the way, the Wheel of Time, which of course, if anybody has questions on my name, I've answered this a lot, was Randall Thor. I named myself after the main character in the Wheel of Time. And it's a fantasy novel series, much like Game of Thrones was, although when that was called A Song of Ice and Fire. And I threw the 19 in there because, well, Randall Thor was already taken. But yesterday, Bagheera on Twitter actually retweeted the casting announcements for the Wheel of Time TV show that is coming to Amazon Prime. And I saw the guy who's playing Randall Thor, and I thought to myself, man, that doesn't look like me. Yeah. It's supposed to be a joke. Obviously, it's not very funny.
Oh, well. We can't all be great at everything, Rand.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm not great at anything, though, so, you know.
You're pretty good at PUBG.
Maybe. I don't know. Magic and Maka and Gopher are way better than me at PUBG, though.
Do they carry you?
Magic carries everybody.
Oh, really?
Magic carries everybody. So, yeah, I haven't played anything, so we're going to move on. And we're going to talk about this PS5 reveal leak real quick. Did you see any of these things, Jez? This reveal leak that also revealed the newest state of play and essentially the release date of Last of Us Part 2 and what's going on with Ghost of Tsushima and stuff. Did you see any of this? Or the fact that I don't know if you've seen the articles where the PS5 is going to be as powerful as a 2080. Have you seen any of that?
I haven't. So you're going to have to fill me in and the people who aren't aware in chat.
See, you know, I get sent rumors and leaks all the time. All of the time. And sometimes I make a video about it, sometimes I don't. Like, there's so many, Payspin articles, these are the specs of the Scarlet, and these are specs of the PlayStation 5. And I was just like, I don't really care anymore. I'm just waiting for Sony and Microsoft to come out and be like, all right, this is the PlayStation 5 and this is the Xbox Scarlet. I'm kind of done with the whole like these are the spec stuff, right? But there was one that kind of came out that kind of had a little bit legitimacy to it, and Dealer did a video about it, which, you know, he does a great job breaking down the tech stuff. And a lot of the news outlets, obviously, because they need the clicks, you know, it's countless articles about stuff, basically was saying, I don't know, Mads Gaming's in here, and I'm sure Mads covered this as well, because he also covers the tech stuff as well. Like, I don't know the tech stuff that good. Like, I know what a teraflop is, but I'm not really sure what it does, you know? And I've always presented myself as that. Like, I don't really know the tech stuff. Like, I'm excited to play on the new hardware, but I don't exactly know how all that stuff works. So they basically said the way they basically were comparing it that it's as good as a 2080, which, if I'm not mistaken, the 2080 came out really recently. And I'm just like, if the PS5 is as good as a 2080, that's great, but it also means it's probably expensive as hell. And I doubt it's as powerful as the 2080. But of course, everybody's running with it because that's how it is. And I don't really want to talk about that because who knows if it's true. The thing I kind of wanted to talk about was the reveal leak. And not so much because... And I'm going to ask you a question in a minute about it. So this reveal leak that came out was someone got a hold of a marketing email, which had a ton of details in it, Jez. It had a marketing email that talked about the next state of play and the 3 games that were going to be spotlighted, which were Star Wars, the new Star Wars game. I'm blanking on the subtitle right now. Help me out here, Jez. What was the new Star Wars title called from Respawn?
Jedi Fallen Order.
Jedi Fallen Order. The launch trailer for Death Stranding, and the release date trailer for The Last of Us Part 2, which was supposed to be coming out May of 2020, which, sure, May of 2020 seems reasonable, even though a lot of the early talk and a lot of some of the leaks have said February 2020, right? But the article goes on to, like, the email goes on to say that Ghost of Tsushima's not going to be there and the reasons why, and I thought it was weird that a marketing email would basically go into the details why Ghost of Tsushima's not going to be at a thing, because why would marketing need to know why the game's not going to be there? And then mentioned that it would be a big part of the PlayStation meeting in 2020. Yeah?
Ah.
Okay. All right.
So, is PlayStation meeting a staple Sony event?
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to bring up, because I do believe that there is going to be a PlayStation meeting next year. I 100% have kind of always believed that. It's what they did with the PlayStation 4. February of 2013, they revealed the PlayStation 4 to the world, got a lot of great press, and it kind of, you know, started the whole momentum for the PlayStation 4 into the, you know, beginning of the generation, and it dominated, right? Now, so I don't doubt that there's a PlayStation meeting. You know, this kind of whole leak talks about how they've lined up a bunch of the big parties and how they already have a set date 6 months in advance. It's February 12th, 2020. But the kind of question I wanted to ask you was, like, let's hypothetically assume that's true. Like, even if the leak is true or not true, or, you know, right? Like, let's just say there is a PlayStation meeting sometime. Do you think Microsoft, for the Xbox Scarlet, do you think they'll also copy what they did last gen, or this gen rather, and actually do the reveal event like they did for the Xbox One?
You mean where they don't talk about the games?
Well, no. I mean, you could.
One, right? They talked about the system, but not the game.
Well, even Phil Spencer gave that. They had all those articles on GameSpot this week, where he even went back and kind of looked back at the reveal of the Xbox One and how bad it was. How it was like 30 minutes of TV, sports. They showed The Price is Right, and it was like half an hour before the first game actually showed up. Now, I think Sony will do a reveal event. And I think it'll be sometime early next year. I'm wondering, and that's my question to you, and this is why I even really bring this up, because I want to bring everything back to Xbox. Do you think Xbox will then also do a reveal event in March like they did for the Xbox One, or will they just hold off until E3 and just do everything there? Like, what do you think they would do?
I would hope that they'd do a reveal event and that E3 would focus on the games. I actually preferred that format, even though a lot of people complained and they were upset that it was all TV and stuff like that. I'd rather those events be separate. I'd rather E3 focus on the games, and maybe like if there's any big service announcements, fine. And it doesn't make sense for them to have their own thing. But I would honestly prefer to hear about all the systems and the console first, and then hear about the games afterwards. I don't know what you think. What do you think?
I would like to see a reveal event, because honestly, I kind of would want to get all the spec stuff out of the way. The look of the console, maybe talk about a couple of the big franchises or special things you're doing. So yeah, at E3 you can just literally focus on what's really important in all this, the games that you're going to be playing on PS5 and Xbox Scarlet. So I would much rather them have, well, also as a YouTuber and as like a content creator, like I would rather them have two events, because that helps me out too, because I can have a podcast about it and I can do a video about it or videos about it, right? You could write articles about it. You know
but
what I mean?
The reason I want them to separate them out is because I'd rather because if they do it at E3, they're going to have to skip over it. They're going to have to do it really fast and not give us that much information. And one of the things Xbox has really struggled with the production of its E3 press conferences is pacing. And I feel like if they're announcing a whole new system alongside its new operating system and its new features and all that sort of stuff, they ain't going to have much time to go in depth on any games. I feel like because they don't want to make that much longer than an hour and a half, right? So I would rather they give the console the focus it's due and give the games the focus they're due. I don't want them to try and do both all at one event, because I don't think anything will get the focus it deserves. Even disregarding how it will make it easier for content creators, but disregarding that, like,
well, right, I'm just saying, like, I also have a vested interest in also them having reveal events, because I could make videos for both of them. But I would just rather them, like, okay, this is the console, these are the specs, here's what it's gonna do, here's some new stuff, maybe here's a couple glimpses at some early games we're running, and then so at E3 it's just like, here are the games. I mean, it's similar to how Xbox and PlayStation did it, although Xbox really kind of screwed the pooch when they had TV stuff, which I still can't believe they screwed that up so bad. But either way, that's how I would want them to go about it. Now, circling back to this whole leak thing, because this is where the whole PlayStation meeting kind of came from, even though I believe they're going to do one, I really do think this guy is making it up. Because I think it's easy to say there's going to be a PlayStation meeting in February. But the thing is, he uses Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order as a game that Sony would put into their November state of play. But at the same time, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is a game that Microsoft has marketing rights to, where more than likely Sony's not really allowed to show any of that game in any of their stuff. That's kind of how that things work. And I don't think many people realize that. I don't think many people realize that Microsoft has the rights to marketing for that game, because they assume that Sony does, because they've had the marketing rights to the other two Star Wars games, right? So I don't really believe that whole leak. It's kind of written away where you could, yeah, okay, I could see The Last of Us 2 being in May, and yeah, PlayStation meeting in February, but there's a lot of details in there that don't really make a lot of sense. A lot of details, like why go. It's like Ghost of Tsushima's having great progress, but also at the same time it's been delayed so many times, and it's also going to be a PS5 launch title. So, I don't really buy it. But the thing is, you don't really have to wait long to find out if it's true, because if a November state of play actually gets announced, well then obviously it's right. So we'll have to just wait and see on that one. But I figured I wanted to get your thoughts on whether or not you'd want Microsoft to also have a reveal event for Scarlet. I do. But we're going to move on from that And what are we going to talk about next, Jez? You know what? I want to talk about your article that you wrote.
Okay.
Because I haven't read it yet, but you said it was in a response to what we kind of briefly mentioned last week about bring back KI. That I said both of us said that we want Killer Instinct to come back. And we loved the whole campaign that Maximilian was doing on YouTube, and the constant like Killer Instinct content, forcing Xbox to notice that, hey, there's a big thing going on here with Killer Instinct. Maybe you should consider bringing it back. We talked about that. We both think it's a great thing. Cool thing to see the community come together and kind of push it. But then, at the same time, I thought it was kind of weird and sad a little bit that we Xbox fans have to do that. That there's a sense...
that that inspired me, because after you said that, I got a DM from Unicracken on Twitter. Shout out to him, by the way. He's a big pillar of the Halo community. He works on Sins of the Prophet mods for Stellaris and stuff like that, which sort of turns some strategy games into sort of Halo space combat simulators, kind of. Really cool mod. Check that out. And he sent me a DM saying, we're trying to petition Microsoft to, work on Halo Wars 2, because there's loads of balance changes that are needed. There's bug fixes that are needed. And also, we'd like to bring the game to Steam. And I've reported before that I'd heard the game was coming to Steam, but like the DLC, the third expansion, or the second expansion rather. I can't remember if it's third or second, but it seemed to just not happen. Like, there was Creative Assembly posted a bunch of concept art for space combat in Halo Wars 2 that just didn't happen. And then literally his petition inspired what you said first, but then when he sent me a petition for Halo Wars 2 to get more support, that's when I was sort of like, why do Xbox fans have to beg for this stuff? Why do we have to beg them to support their games? And I've seen people say Halo Wars 2 isn't game as a service, but it totally is a game as a service. It's literally a definition of games as a service. It has loot boxes, it had free updates, it had free heroes added to the game. It is literally the definition of a game as a service. It's not a battle royale, but it's still a game as a service. I don't care what anyone says. It's literally the definition of game as a service. But in any case, coincidentally, I wrote that article, and then Microsoft responded saying, sorry guys, we're not going to support Halo Wars 2 anymore because our resources are fully focused on the Master Chief Collection. And, that's fair enough. Master Chief Collection for Steam is going to be huge. It's going to reinvigorate It's going to reinvigorate Halo with the PC community and stuff like that. It's really important that they nail the Master Chief Collection. But at the same time, it's kind of isn't this Microsoft we're talking about? Isn't this Microsoft, the $1 trillion company who can just buy Ninja and stuff like that? Shouldn't they have spent the last couple of years trying to put a team together to keep Halo Wars 2 going, or maybe consider growing the franchise and stuff like that? Why do we have to beg for this stuff? And people have argued, well, no one's playing it, or no one bought the game. But the thing is, there are public APIs that say hundreds of thousands of people were still playing the game in the last few months. And yeah, maybe you can argue hundreds of thousands isn't enough, and that's totally fine. But you can also argue that maybe it would be better received if it had more support and more fixes and worked with the community more. Rainbow Six Siege wasn't well received at launch, but then Ubisoft stuck with it, doubled down, and now it's one of the biggest shooters in the world. And you've got games like Final Fantasy XIV Realm Reborn, which were awful at launch. They were terrible. Realm Reborn was absolute garbage. And then they turned it around, and now it's I think it might even be bigger than WoW at the moment. So it's and again, there are logistical issues. It's easy for Square Enix to prioritize one game, and Microsoft trying to do loads of stuff all at once, and but it was more just sort of venting rather than telling Microsoft what to do, kind of. But it just sucks, because I feel just disappointed a lot with the way Microsoft has handled things this gen.
Well, right, and how much of it has to do with the fact that Creative Assembly also isn't their own studio and is actually a Sega studio. Maybe Sega need them working on something else. Sam Tolbert even says in chat, if only they were building an RTS-focused studio to take over that kind of thing, which that is Shannon Loftus' new studio for Age of Empires, presumably to work on the Age of Empires.
They're just Age of Empires. They ain't going to be working on Halo.
Right, but I'm saying, like, would it be a different story if Halo Wars 2 was an in-house thing rather than, outsourced, essentially?
Yeah, but that's another thing we've talked about before, about how much Microsoft relies on outsourcing and how it hurts them down the line because they can't depend on those studios. Like, they outsourced Crackdown 3 to several studios, and look what happened there,
Well, that was the whole problem with Xbox this whole generation, is they outsourced basically everything outside of Halo and Gears and Forza, and most of the things they did, they came back to bite them in the ass. Crackdown 3, we know what happened with that game. Rise 2, you had a dispute with Crytek over the IP. Sunset Overdrive, who drugged their foot to greenlight the second one. Either way, it doesn't matter because now they're doing Spider-Man. Quantum Break, remember, Quantum Break at the time, fastest selling new IP for Microsoft ever, for Xbox ever. No sequel. They don't even want to work with Remedy ever again. Now Control's coming out. So yeah, like, with a strategy that definitely worked during the 360 gen, because it clearly did. They tried doing it again. It clearly didn't work. And I think Halo Wars 2 is a product of that because they don't really have they shut down Ensemble during the 360 era after they shipped Halo Wars, so that already is a problem. They, a studio that actually could do that stuff. And then here you are now, and you still want to do Halo Wars 2, but you don't have a studio because you shut them down. So then you outsource it to Creative Assembly, who's a great RTS developer. They put the work in, and maybe they just can't do it anymore, so Halo Wars 2 kind of just sits there languishing, which is why Microsoft went out and they bought all these studios, so essentially you wouldn't have those problems anymore into the future. So, I don't know. That's kind of my whole thought on that stuff.
I mean, yeah, it shows, like, it proves why buying studios is so important, and that's the hope there. There's, like, it's not all doom and gloom because they have bought those studios specifically to alleviate that issue with outsourcing, and as a result of that, like, the future should be brighter. But it's like, god damn, we're gonna be waiting years for this,
Yeah, and
we're gonna be waiting years for the reputation, the damage to the reputation to be repaired.
And Shinzo Elite says, are these podcasts going to keep repeating the same thing? I know I've heard this exact words here before. Yeah, I've said that exactly before because I want to, like, hit that, like, point home. Something that worked previously didn't work this gen. So yeah, I've actually said that before. But not everybody watches all the podcasts we do. There's always new people coming in. Sometimes you got to overly explain certain things. So that's why sometimes, the responses you give are going to be the same, so it is what it is. I'm sorry. That's just, that's my response. Like, we're talking about the situation that Jez wrote an article about all this stuff, and I'm trying to potentially play devil's advocate, but also give a reason why there may not be support for Halo Wars 2 and why it potentially could be different going down the future. Not everybody knows this stuff. I mean, you say we all know this, but clearly, judging from the comments I get on my videos, not everybody knows everything. People don't follow the video game industry as closely as everybody else does, or as closely as, like, Jez, who is a major editor for, a website, or me, who literally, I don't know, I live this shit. It's my stuff. Like, I love following the video game industry and seeing what's going on and the new games that are getting announced and following what Xbox is doing and what PlayStation doing. So, that's why sometimes these things get repeated. But anyways, yeah. I thought, I haven't read your article yet. I will. And I'm touched, Jez. I'm touched that I was, that I inspired you. Was this the first time I inspired you, Jez?
I don't know. Yeah, Unicrackers deserve the credit, really. Sorry, bro.
Oh, okay, so I don't get any credit. I don't get any credit. All right. Fine. Anthem. Before we get back, the Anthem, the death of BioWare, Jez. I know you have a lot to say about this. BioWare used to be one of my favorite developers. They really fell off this generation, though.
They were my favorite developer. Like,
Well, Bungie was my favorite developer, and I will never play one of their games again. If it, let me rephrase that. If they make something that is not Destiny, I will play it. But if all Bungie is going to do is make Destiny, I will never play another Bungie game again. Right?
Rip.
So,
Rip.
the lead producer for Anthem, Ben Irving, has left. Now, what does that mean for Anthem going forward? A lot of people already kind of assume or think that EA's given up on the franchise of Anthem. How do you feel about that, Jez? Do you think EA has basically just given up and wiped their hands of Anthem and is like, whatever, like, we're done with this, it's done and over with?
It's tough, man, because like they've just shipped a Cataclysm update for Anthem, and Ben Irving, who was lead producer on the game, he's the one in charge. He was taking all the questions. He also led production on Star Wars: The Old Republic, which I played for quite a while. And he wasn't that popular there either. So just FYI. But it's like, it's bad. I don't see Anthem recovering from this. Like, BioWare's already lost so many high-profile studio people that it's barely the same studio that it was back in the day. And like, it's almost like it's just a brand name now, rather than like the classic team that gave us Mass Effect 2 and, Dragon Age and stuff like that. It's like the Dragon Age lead producer left as well a little while ago, and it's just oh man, it just depresses me because like I've played Dragon Age Origins more than any other game besides World of Warcraft. I think I've completed that game so many times. I got hundreds of hours played. I've done every single bloody quest in the game. Talked to every NPC. I know that game inside out, upside down and backwards. And like, I really quite liked Inquisition, actually. Like, some BioWare fans, like, they didn't like it that much, but even though I liked it, it did start to feel like the beginning of the end somehow. And then we got Mass Effect Andromeda. We all know what happened there. And then we got Anthem. My God, probably the worst big game launch of this year. And I played a lot of Anthem. I played quite a lot of it. And the combat, like Andromeda, they nailed the combat, but the rest of the game just didn't fit together. Like, it was like a jigsaw puzzle that just didn't fit together for some reason. So, a few people in chat are saying stuff like, if Dragon Age 4 bombs, that's the end. I agree. I don't see a future for BioWare if they can't like make Dragon Age 4 really good. I can't see a future for them. But like, what's worse is those kinds of games are becoming increasingly hard to justify for these big publishers. Like, they'll be like, can we justify putting out this like single player game with deep RPG mechanics and stuff like that? Can we justify that anymore in 2019? And the answer is often no. So I'm worried, man, as a fan. I know what you think.
Well, thank God for demos, because I played the Anthem demo with my buddy Magic, and we were both like, yeah, no thanks. And it saved us from $60 because, yeah, we didn't like it. And so seeing what's going on with Anthem, and I know there's people that like it. I see Shady playing it all the time, so Shady. But it really does seem like a BioWare doesn't really know what they're doing, or
it feels like a managerial issue or
yeah,
middle management issue. It feels like the talent is there. The raw BioWare talent is still there. Like, my God, some of the art in Anthem was incredible, and the gameplay systems, like the shooting mechanics were tight, the flying was really cool, and like the couple of bosses that were there were pretty well designed. But like, my God, man, some of the systems didn't tie together.
I think you have BioWare, right? One of the greatest RPG studios of all time. Mass Effect, Dragon Age, just to name a couple. I know they did some stuff before Mass Effect, right? maybe they had a real problem with integrating social components and multiplayer into what they've normally been a single player experience, right? Like this generation, like Mass Effect Andromeda, Dragon Age Inquisition, and Anthem, I think they really struggled with a lot of that, at least in the last two. So to me, they're like BioWare in name only, which is exactly what the Greeky Nerd says. It's just a name on the door, but most of the people working there, they're not the same. They're not the people who worked on Knights of the Republic or Jade Empire back on the OG Xbox. Those great games. So I think it's like a studio that struggles to meet with what the modern publisher demands. The modern publisher being EA, which is like, we need engagement. We don't need single player. We need multiplayer focused stuff. That is what's hot. We need microtransactions, all that stuff, and that's just not what BioWare has done. Even when EA bought them last gen, that like single player, like the games that BioWare made were still in vogue, right? Like, and I know Sony makes a lot of those games now, but they're really the only ones who really do. A lot of the bigger publishers have kind of, they've moved on a little bit to games as a service style stuff, and I don't think BioWare were built to do that. Clearly, from the last couple games, right? Yeah. So you say,
Rand. What the issue is ultimately? The issue ultimately is shareholders, right?
Okay, sure.
So like, it's shareholders because like the shareholders, EA could make single player RPGs like Dragon Age, and they could make a profit, and they could have a healthy business. But the shareholders would be like, well, guys, why aren't you doing things like Activision? Why aren't you, making us even more money on the same level as Activision, who've rammed microtransactions into literally everything in the universe? So, because of that, EA has to shift its priorities to deliver what the shareholders want. And EA is a company that's very, very dominated by its shareholders. The same isn't true for studios like Ubisoft, who they can do things like prioritize, sinking loads of money into investment in Rainbow Six Siege because they're pretty much like a family-driven company, And yeah, like Ubisoft makes service-driven games too, but that's just because they want to be competitive in today's market. And from their perspective, it's gamers who want service-driven games.
I know,
because that's where they're spending their hours. That's where they're spending their money. And like, we might not like it, and we might be saying things like, well, why not do both? And and it's just like, it's hard to justify when you can make like a game like Fortnite and make bajillions of dollars, and then spend a load of money and risk making a game like Mass Effect Andromeda only for everyone to hate it. It's hard for them to swallow that risk, and it's hard for them to justify that to their shareholders. And EA is a very shareholder-driven company, like we spoke about earlier. And it's just the way it is, kind of. And like, I'm like sitting here wondering what kind of game Dragon Age 4 is going to be. Is it even going to be an RPG? Is it going to be some kind of like ultra service game? Stuff like that. It's hard to envision like a classic Dragon Age game in 2020 or 2021, whenever it comes out. Maybe never, who knows? But seeing it from their perspective, it's not an easy position for them to be in terms of like, because there's this disconnect between critics, hardcore gamers, and the wider market, and where people are spending their money. A lot of like the hardcore fans, they want those games like Dragon Age Origins. They want those games. They want those memorable experiences that you're gonna like remember forever. I ain't gonna remember like, the most amazing game I ever had in Fortnite. I ain't gonna remember that stuff. But I sure as hell remember some of the darkest moments of Dragon Age Origins. And I remember like all those cool lines with the Reapers in Mass Effect 1, 2, 3. Yeah. It's those are the games that create memories for users, but unfortunately don't create money for shareholders. And therein lies the contention. Well, Microsoft has to deal with contention too.
It's like what MM2K says in chat. Shout out to you, MM2K. He says, problem is, Rand, BioWare themselves were the brainchild of this being a games as a service, not EA. The game is just a result of poor management at the studio level. So yeah, I mean, fish rots from the head down. So BioWare's, leaders didn't know really what they were doing. And from all accounts, like EA, like they're just like, okay, make the game. And at some point, the game was in production for 7 years, right? And they're just like, we need this game to come out. And they're like, but I was like, but we don't have anything. Like, well, too bad. Jez, I am worried that BioWare's not even going to make it to Dragon Age 4.
I am too, man.
I'm worried that we're just going to see a news article one day and it's like, BioWare shut down by EA. And then, but this is where...
It's Visceral.
Well, right, Visceral, which they shut down Visceral so they could essentially buy Respawn. So...
Probably a good deal, to be fair.
I always kind of thought in the back of my mind, when EA was the one to buy BioWare and Pandemic, back during the 360 era for like the $1 billion, I always thought at some point that was the beginning for the end for BioWare. That at some point they would get completely either changed so they weren't BioWare or they would get shut down. And I think BioWare they're aiming down that gun and it's Russian roulette time. And there's 3 chambers that have fired and it's been empty. But that bullet's still there in one of those chambers and time is coming because Anthem didn't set the world on fire.
The worst is, man, like when you play Anthem, you can just feel that there's a quality game in there somewhere. You can just feel it. Like, you just know that they could salvage this. But at the same time, it's like, does EA have the stomach for all the more risk? EA seems to be a pretty risk-averse company these days.
Well, yeah, and look at some of the games that have had terrible launches and that have coming back. You can make an argument for Destiny and Destiny 2, right? That they had a terrible launch. You can definitely make that argument with Destiny 2. What am I saying to myself? Of course, Destiny 2 had a terrible launch, but according to everybody who's plays it now, it's so much better than it ever was, right? So Destiny and Bungie, now they have control of the franchise, they brought it back. Recent example, Final Fantasy XIV. They basically, launched the game, it was a disaster, they basically took it down and then brought it back up, and now there are days supposedly where there's more people playing it than World of Warcraft or it's back. Another game that just recently got an update, No Man's Sky. Remember when No Man's Sky came out all those years ago and people ragged on it for the lack of content that it had? And now people play it today and it's like a completely different game. It's a game that, they're happy that they worked on it for so long. So there's these games that start out bad, but because the developer sticks with it, it becomes much better, or at least saves the game. The question is Anthem going to be one of those? Even like Rainbow Six Siege wasn't really a big hit right away, but it eventually did because they stuck with the game and they updated it, they added new things, and now it's one of the biggest games in the world. So the question is BioWare the studio to actually save Anthem? And is EA going to allow them the time needed to make that? And of course, you can also make the case for Sea of Thieves with how it launched and what it has now and how they're talking about adding pets and all these updates in the future and how that's going to be like a completely different game. And I'm just saying there are case studies for a game that came out and didn't do well and then the studio stuck with it and turned it around. I'm just not sure that BioWare has it in them to actually do this,
Yeah, I'm not sure either, and it scares me and saddens me. But like on the flip side, those devs are amazing and talented, and this is nothing against any of the BioWare devs. Like they are some of the most creative and smart and talented people, like the art direction and all that sort of stuff, and it just feels like a lot of this is on EA on management level, like forcing them over to use Frostbite, which they weren't familiar with, and all that sort of stuff. And like every Frostbite game that has come out except for Battlefield and Battlefront, and honestly, even Battlefield and Battlefront has been a mess. Like Battlefront 1 was a mess with bugs, and every Battlefield is buggy at launch. But like the first Battlefield 3 and 4 were awful at launch, man.
Uh-oh. Jez disconnected. So
I didn't. I'm still here.
okay. So yeah. Enough about Anthem. I want to switch topics, and I want to talk about Game Pass really fast because I saw this really interesting article. I don't know if you saw, Jez. It was about the guy or the dev studio behind Descenders and how he was a vocal critic about subscriptions, right? Because sometimes I see on my timeline, I see Neethles, shout out to Neethles, going at Uptown Soul in this kind of talk about, was Phil lying when he said that games sell better in Game Pass than they would before? Because, Phil's made that argument. And Xbox has made that argument that you put your game into Game Pass, more people play it, but then also more people buy it. So I always see Neethles on Twitter going at it with him. Now, there was this article from the Descenders thing, and I wanted to briefly talk about it. And basically, the guy was a vocal critic. He was like, yeah, I thought what Phil said was bull, right? But at the same time, he was like, our sales quadrupled. That he's a believer in Game Pass right now. That but he's worried that it may not be like that 3 years from now. So I just thought that was a really interesting case. A guy who hated Game Pass and then put his game in there, didn't believe any of the thing people were saying, and then suddenly exactly what people were saying happened to his game. That it sold all these copies, even though it was free in Game Pass. And I know people have a love-hate relationship with Game Pass. Some people like it, some people hate it.
Well, this is the stuff I've heard from devs before, is that some devs, I talk to devs a lot of all shapes and sizes about Game Pass, and a lot of them have said, like, we're worried it's going to be like Spotify, you're going to have this race to the bottom where, like, games just become cheaper as a result of this, and it means less profit for them and stuff like that. But it's different for games because, unlike music, with games you have the upsell, and the upsell is like engagement, networking, word of mouth, and then microtransactions stuff. You don't really get microtransactions with music. So, like, even though like the Spotify comparison works in some ways, it doesn't work that well for gaming because, like, there's less ongoing engagement with music, I guess you could say. So, like, it's not a fair comparison in total. But, like, a lot of the common thread here seems to be that developers seem to be happy with it, those that have come onto the platform. Although I will say, Rand, that I have spoke to a couple of devs who have been on one of those temporary deals where they were in Game Pass and they came out of Game Pass. And the Descenders dev who said that he's worried that it won't be the same 4 years down the line, he's right. Because what I've heard is that, like, once a game exits Game Pass, those metrics often go down. And you could say that, like, maybe that's just indicative of the game not being high quality or, something like that. But you'd think, like, if a game was really good and they got marketing from being available in Game Pass, that the engagement would remain, wouldn't you? I don't know.
The thing is, I think when you talk about games in Game Pass, is it gets highlighted among all the other releases that happen on Xbox. Like, you tune into Xbox, and I was talking to Tim Dog about this last night, and I went into the store, and there's a game called Gravity Duck. Gravity Duck, right? And I'm like, oh, it's $5, and it's a 10-hour completion for 1,000 gamer score, and he bought it immediately. But it wasn't just Gravity Duck, it's all these other games. It's all these other indie games that pile into the store every single week. And it's not just an issue with Xbox. It's also an issue with PlayStation, and it's becoming an issue with Switch, because it's already been an issue for years on Steam. Is that at some point when you open the platform up to everybody, people just put garbage into the store. And when you put garbage into the store, it's hard for any other game to really get that sort of promotion it's looking for. So what does Game Pass really give you? Constant advertisements on the dashboard through people actually playing it. Like, people don't know how many games actually come out on Xbox. Like, nobody knows what Gravity Duck is besides Achievement Hunters. But when Descenders is there, it's advertised in the Game Pass tab. Your friends are playing it, so you actually know about it. And I think that's obviously very beneficial for a lot of these games. But like you said, once you remove it and it's not there anymore, now you're just a grain of grass on the sand, along with 500,000 other grains of grass. What makes you special in comparison to the other ones?
Hang on a sec. A grain of grass?
A grain of sand. My bad. This happens when I talk really fast sometimes, when I'm just stream of consciousness. A grain of... You know exactly what I meant, Jez. A grain of sand. Yeah, each one of these games is just a grain of sand, and there's just... The beach is big. There's thousands upon thousands of games. How is any one game going to stand out from any other game? Especially when they're indie games. They don't have any marketing, and most of them kind of just look like, I don't know, not very good, and some of them are $20, some of them are 30, some of them are 10, and you're like, well, I don't got time for this, I don't got money for this. But if it's in Game Pass, it's like, okay, that's the advertisement they need. Now, will that still be there a couple years from now? Probably not. I also think they'll reach a saturation point at some distant point in the future where it doesn't really matter anymore. But for now, it's like, it's kind of a thing. But that's kind of Xbox's problem to figure out, though, is how to make it not so saturated. Like 2 years from now, how someone says I'm racist. Really? What did I say? I didn't say anything racist. I'm not racist. God, a grain of grass a racist thing, Jez?
I don't know. I'm racist against grass, maybe.
No. So that'd be Xbox's thing to figure out. But anyways, yeah, Game Pass, it converted a guy who was very much against it, but will it last forever? Now, what do you want to talk about next? Let's talk about Phil. Good old Phil Spencer, our buddy, right?
Oh, he said hi, by the way.
Oh, he said hi to me?
Yes.
What'd you tell him we were doing a podcast?
Maybe.
I talked to Phil like last week. Just a brief DM. You know, I asked him a couple things and he responded. He always gets back to me about stuff. But Phil had a big blowout on GameSpot. And he did. There was a whole bunch of stuff. Great articles. GameSpot did a profile of him. He's a great dude. He's always been great to me. He's helped me with a lot of stuff, invited me to E3. So I am biased towards the guy. I'll be the first one to admit it. But so he said something about Project xCloud and streaming that I kind of wanted to talk about. And he said that because there are a lot of people who are fearful of the streaming future, right? With Google Stadia coming this year, with all that stuff, right? They feel that consoles are getting thrown away. And so he said grassist, not racist. My bad. I thought it looked okay, that makes sense. I'm a grassist. All right, that's funny. That is real funny. I get it now. So I don't know. I saw the art. I don't think he said I had the G in front of it, but either way, all right. That thanks for the laugh. I really needed that. But grassist. All right. So a lot of people are worried about the future of console, right? They're worried that the Xbox console, that Microsoft isn't prioritizing it anymore, that eventually it's going to be gone and your only way to play Xbox games will be streaming, right? People are legitimately concerned about that. So he went on and he said, listen, streaming, yeah, it's the future, but like really the future. He said it'll be years and years and years away from actually being mainstream. And he also said there's no streaming only box in development. So now whether they make one down the road is up for, who knows, but he's basically saying like, yeah, streaming not going to be a big thing until 10 years from now. And I've predicted on this show that I think Xbox and PlayStation are good for minimum 2 more console generations. I'm thinking this upcoming gen, and I'm saying it's 7 years, so 2020 to 2027, and then I'm thinking the one after that. So 2028 to 2035. I think you're good with consoles, powerful consoles, until about 2035. And then after that, who really knows? I mean, Sony themselves have said, well, we don't know if the next PlayStation is the last one yet. Because who knows how the market's going to shift, and they got to be on the ball with it. But I think as long as there's demand for a home console, a significant demand, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo will make it. I think a lot of people, they hear Microsoft talking a lot about xCloud, mainly because it is new, and they are launching it later this year. I think you'll see them talk more about the console Scarlet next year when it's actually coming out. But for now, it's something that's new, so they do kind of have to talk about it. But people get worried. And he's basically saying, like, look, we're not dropping consoles because the streaming stuff ain't happening for really a long time. Right now for Xbox, it's going to be an addition thing. It's just going to be something most players probably don't even use. And if you do use, it'll be like a convenience thing. Like, oh, you're at work and you're on your lunch break. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if you could just bust out your iPad and play a quick game of Monster Hunter World or Apex Legends? You could do that, and you could do it easily. You know, I think that whole thing gets blown up out of proportion about the streaming thing. I don't think it's anywhere near ready. And from everybody talking about it, they believe it too. Xbox fully believes that it's not going to be ready, or at least mainstream, for a long time. Now, of course, people look at Google and they're like, well, they're doing it right away. But even PlayStation themselves don't even look at Google as a short-term threat. They look at Google as a mid to long-term threat, because they know in the short term, Google's not a threat whatsoever. The next 2-3 years, Google's not a threat, but Google might be a threat 5 to 10 years from now, and that's what they're worried about, which is one of the reasons why they have a memorandum with Microsoft to do the whole streaming stuff. But that's kind of my kind of thoughts on this, Jez. What about you?
It's the same thing, you know. I mean, Google's so bullish is because they got nothing else. They've got Android, which no one, you know, makes them decent money, but not a huge amount because it's so easy to pirate games on Android. Like ridiculously easy to pirate games on Android. And so like Google wants a bit of that, you know, serious Fortnite money and stuff. And you have to remember, Fortnite isn't on the Google Android store. It's exclusive to the Samsung Android store, which is hilarious, kind of. But you know, so Google wants a bit of that serious gaming money, you know, the console space and stuff like that. And Google think like they can leverage that. They can leverage YouTube, they can leverage Google search and all that sort of stuff to try and build up to a point where they're actually a serious console threat. But I agree with you. I don't think this stuff's mainstream for a long time, especially because like only a handful of countries around the world really have the serious infrastructure to make this a reality. And honestly, America's not one of them. Since like you guys have so many data caps, which is so funny to me. As someone who lives in Europe and hasn't had a data cap since I was about... You know what? I don't think I've ever had a data cap on any of my internet provision. It just hasn't ever been a thing here. And, like, I'm super lucky about that. But, you know, for those who do have data caps, like, this just is not going to be viable. It's basically going to be most viable in Asia, where mobile gaming is very, very popular. And it's going to be very, very popular in Europe, hopefully, where no one has data caps, or at least in Western Europe. So, you know, actually, Eastern Europe has even better internet than Western Europe in some cases. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. So, I agree. I think, like, there's at least 2 more core console generations, maybe even 3 more, maybe even more than that, you know, if, like, World War III doesn't kill us all between now and then, which is something I always like to mention for some reason. But, you know, there it is. That's what it is, man.
Silverburst Gamer says, so Rand, you're giving reason to Sony. They've been streaming since 2014. No one hyped that bull. As soon as Xbox does it, it's the greatest thing ever. I've never said anything about... Have I mentioned xCloud as the greatest thing ever? I think I'm pretty apparent on this show and in my videos. I'm not really excited for xCloud. It's not something that I'm going to do. I'll try it out. Because I'm interested in the technology to see a game running on the phone, but I am definitely not going to be one of those people that is clamoring to play my game on the go. And yes, I know Sony pioneered it. They were there first. But at the same time, Sony's the one that signed a memorandum with Microsoft to kind of figure out a future of streaming for themselves. Probably because they know their infrastructure needs work and they don't want to spend the time, and that's pretty much it. And Sony knows that, 5-10 years from now, things can change. But I get what you're saying, that some Xbox fans maybe say that. I get that. I see that all the time. But, I mean, you can't hold me to the same things that other people say about Xbox. You can only hold me to what I say about Xbox. So
yeah, that's a straw man argument. Like the real thing here is I've used both. I've used PS Now, and I've used xCloud. I've used both of them. Now, xCloud, I used PlayStation Now in my home, and it sucked. It was unusable, unplayable, too much lag. It was a joke. I used xCloud at E3 to a data center that was 400 miles away, and it worked really well. I could hit the active reload in Gears of War 4 really easily. Responsive. I could land headshots in Halo. It worked perfectly well. Now, that is, even though it was streaming to a data center and it was a live system, you still don't know for sure until it's in your home and at scale. Like, the difference there is xCloud was being tested by a few hundred people, whereas PlayStation Now is trying to be, at scale, presumably thousands of people. But where Microsoft has the advantage here is purely in physical location. Like, wherever you go in Germany, you're never more than 500 miles away from a Microsoft data center. You are never, ever more than 500 miles away, and in the UK as well. And whereas PlayStation Now servers, I don't even know where they are. Don't even know where they are. So it's the physicality of the position of the servers that where Microsoft has a huge advantage. They've got a huge advantage because of all their data centers. So that's why I'm excited for xCloud, and that's why I don't take PlayStation Now seriously, is because Microsoft's invested way more money in this stuff. That's just the reality of it. It's not a fanboy argument. It's just pure cold hard facts, and facts don't care about feelings. They don't care about them, man.
They don't at all. But anyways, yeah, he always kind of needs to reassert that, because people always are like, no, the streaming's taking over and there'll be no more consoles. The consoles are going away. The consoles ain't going anywhere. Like, I think you're good for 2 more gens at least. And honestly, look at like what that would be, 2035. 2035. Who knows?
I'll be amazed if civilization still exists in 2035.
Yeah, like 2035 is a long time from now. So who knows? Oh, Jez, I'm getting an echo off your mic there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Say something.
Hello. 2019.
Why are you getting an echo now? It hasn't been echoing the whole show.
It hasn't been echoing the whole time. I don't know if everybody else in chat, but I definitely heard myself through your headset.
All right. It should be fine now. I've turned you down a bit.
Okay. What was I gonna say? Yeah. So there's that, and we're gonna talk about Gamescom, and then we're gonna talk about Xbox going third party. Big juicy topic, right? So Gamescom is in August 19th, which is on Monday. I think it's early on the East Coast. I think it's like 11 a.m. Well, right around lunchtime, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard. And I want to let people know what to expect. And I kind of want to like shut some of it down, because there are some people saying that like Fable 4 is going to be there, or like a big game announcement. And I'm just like, no. Like, let's not go there. Like, Microsoft's not showing Fable at E3. They're not showing Fable at Gamescom. Now, would I love for that them to actually show Fable? Yeah, of course. Or any other new game? Great. But let's kind of dial the hype back down for Gamescom, right, Jazz? Am I kind of right in that assessment there?
Yeah, like Microsoft has never really gone too hard at Gamescom. I think this year will be a bit different, actually. I think we will get maybe more than we usually get at Gamescom, because I feel like Microsoft's probably like building a road of hype between now, E3, Gamescom, XO. I feel like they are building sort of a roadmap of hype moving into Scarlet next year. So I do think Gamescom will be higher profile than it has been for Redmond in recent years. But I'm still not expecting, like you say, Fable. I'm not expecting something big like that. I'm not expecting any Age of Empires stuff. I'm not expecting a studio acquisition. I'm expecting like cool new details about Sea of Thieves, maybe, or State of Decay, or something like that. Maybe like I'm expecting new trailers for some of the games that we know about, like Wasteland 3. I don't know. I'm not really. There might be like some cool announcements, like the accessories team was teasing something. Um, I don't know what that could
A
be.
new controller from James Shields. I mean,
Maybe the XCloud controllers, the handheld stuff that have
I
been
guess it's
teased.
possible. I mean, they did the XCloud trial is coming in October, so I guess it's possible they could. And they're supposed to be given a hands-on, so maybe it's possible they have that stuff. Maybe there's a new controller. I'm sure they'll show off the Gears console, because Inside Xbox is what they're doing, and it's a 2-hour show, and they're gonna debut the Gears Horde stuff. Now,
I can't wait for that.
now I also want to point out, like I did in my video, the Gears story campaign trailer is not going to be at Inside Xbox.
Oh, where's that going to be?
It's going to be at the Gamescom opening night with Jeff Keighley.
That's where?
Yeah.
That's weird.
No, it's not weird. There's a big show after Inside Xbox where Jeff Keighley and like 15 other publishers are debuting like new game announcements and new trailers for some games and stuff. And if you go look at the announcement from when they said there'd be the new campaign, they said Jeff Keighley said that Gears Viking, which is Rod Ferguson, will be joining him to debut the story trailer for Gears 5 during the opening night, which is after Inside Xbox. So there's no way Inside Xbox is going to show off that trailer. That's going to be exclusive to that show. So keep that in mind. I ran down all the different things that I thought was going to be there. Like, they said they have the reveal for the Ghost Recon multiplayer, the gameplay debut of Empire of Sin, Bleeding Edge stuff, which is interesting because what do you think more of Bleeding Edge will get? You think we'll actually get a release date for Bleeding Edge? Because I played it last week. They added the party system. I'm still shocked at how polished that game is. Like, I think that game could come out tomorrow and actually release. It's in that, like, complete state.
Do we know what the business model is? Is it free to play or what?
I don't know. I don't think they've said yet. That's I'm kind of curious to see. Are they going to announce like an open alpha, an open beta to get more people in? I know I saw a lot of people giving away codes, like you were giving away codes to join the alpha. So I'm just kind of curious if they're going to be like, oh, and you can play, like the game will be out in December or the game will be out in January. Because it really does kind of seem close to release. At least close to a finished product. So there's that. There's Minecraft Dungeons. I wonder if they'll show off something, new from there and give a release date for that.
We have a release date. Oh, well, we've got a release
window. So I'm just saying like more of an actual release date.
I would be totally cool if they just did a Gears blowout. Give us all the new features on Horde. Give us all the new features on Campaign. Give us like a real look at the game, rather than sort of relatively obscure stuff we've had so far. I would like that. I'm not expecting a huge amount of stuff. I'm just expecting like a nice, fun show that celebrates what's in the immediate roadmap. Maybe like, I know a lot of people aren't excited about Wasteland 3, but I am super excited about that. So I'd love to hear more about the features coming to that game. Bleeding Edge 2, I'm intrigued about where that game's going. I do think it needs work as a PvP game, but like you say, I'm impressed with how rapidly they've iterated on it. I think like the truth about Bleeding Edge is probably that they've probably got something close to a finished product, and they're just releasing it in a sort of modular way to test it. I think that's probably, I don't know. We'll see.
I'm just saying, I'm surprised by how polished it look, and I think I think they could release in December. Early January or something like that, just as a game. But
do you think it should be free to play?
Probably should be, but then again, that kind of their whole business model essentially seems to be Game Pass at this point. So if you make a free to play Bleeding Edge, that kind of undermines Game Pass. So yeah, I think you're looking the game for what it is and what it offers. I think is essentially a $20 to $30 game. I think if it's more than that, they're asking a little bit too much.
Yeah.
But that's just me. But so my whole thing with Gamescom is don't expect a lot. You know, there might be some cool trailers for existing games and stuff like that. But yeah, don't expect don't expect Fable 4. Don't expect Ninja Theory's new game to get announced or any of that stuff. I think they're I think those are going to be some ways away. And damn, I know there were some super chats I needed to mention, like Power Metal X Rage. Thanks for the super chat. And then someone earlier also. See, sometimes I get so into this stuff, I don't shout out to people that support the channel with the super chats. He asked, Epic Game Store has Alan Wake as a free game right now, and what we thought about that, and if it means anything going forward.
Well, Remedy have the IP back now and the publishing rights, so they've got the full package of what they could do. I think we'll see Alan Wake 2 now. 505 Games will publish it maybe, or someone else that Remedy's working with. I'm
Sony.
sure that or Sony, yeah, maybe. God, that'd be annoying, wouldn't it? For Xbox fans.
Yeah, that'd be really, really interesting.
It would be super interesting if A, Sony makes Alan Wake 2 exclusive, and B, it becomes a critically acclaimed game. Because that'd just sort of slam home what everyone's been criticizing Microsoft about, so they don't nurture their IP properly. But yeah, it is what it is.
Slow-mo says Overwatch is $40 at launch. Price is close to that. Overwatch was $60 on console. And
yeah, Overwatch was $60.
It was cheaper on the PC. 40 or 50. You're definitely right. There was a discount on PC, but on console, that game was full price. That game was $60. I remember that because people were pissed. People were like, "Well, why is this game so much cheaper on the PC? Why is it so expensive on console?" And it's just like console tax, I guess.
Well, the thing is, like, people say like why can Overwatch be $60 but Bleeding Edge can't? It boils down to quality at the end of the day. Like, Overwatch is one of the best shooting games of this generation. Will we be able to say the same about Bleeding Edge? I don't know. Right now, I don't think so. It's good, but is it as good as Overwatch? Not really. And honestly, that's a big problem because people like Battleborn, people are going to compare it to Overwatch. It's going to get compared to Overwatch like crazy. And like it's a passion project, fair enough, and all that sort of stuff. So, maybe it'll earn a good fan base and it'll actually be a really good game and stuff like that. But as much as I enjoyed it and I was impressed with it, it was a lot better than I thought it would be. I'm not expecting it to be as good as Overwatch. Overwatch is just on another level for me.
Yeah. So let's talk about Xbox going third party. The other day I saw a tweet from PlayStation that was like, Xbox games on PlayStation? And it was like, comment here about what Xbox games you'd want on PlayStation or Switch. And then I saw Gaming Bolt and all these websites talk about it. And it's definitely, definitely a topic that gets discussion going, right? Like, oh my God, is Xbox really going third party? Are we going to have Halo on PlayStation 5? Right? And then normally the people that say Xbox has no games are suddenly in those comment sections saying, well, I want this game on PlayStation and this game on PlayStation. It's like, oh, I see you there. I see you. Didn't you just say a second ago that Xbox games suck, but then you're over here saying that you want this game on PlayStation? I see you. I know what you're doing. Because this all really stems from Matt Booty's interview with Game Informer. And I did a video about this. I talk about it and give it my thoughts. He pretty much came out and definitively said the big franchises, Halo, Gears, Sea of Thieves, which he used Sea of Thieves as an example of a big franchise, that they're made for Xbox. And they'll only be on Xbox. And they'll also be on PC, Windows 10, and Steam, because Microsoft said that, like, moving forward, their games will be on Steam. Pretty much shutting the door on any of those games coming to any other console. Now, this is where he kind of leaves the door open, and a little bit of it is their fault. See, in my opinion, a little of this is Xbox's fault for inviting the speculation, because Matt Booty says, well, essentially, if it makes sense for the franchise, And if the developers that we have want to do it, then yeah, they'd be open for Psychonauts 3 to be on PlayStation, or In Exile's game to be on there. So he basically said it's up to the developers and up to like what's good for the franchise. But of course, it gets kind of blown out on social media that, oh, Xbox games are coming. And the thing is, they maybe never will, but the perception is already out there that they are, or they will be in the future. And the thing is I wish they were a little bit more definitive in their answers. They were with Halo. I mean, you read the interview and you pretty much say Halo's not going to be anywhere but Xbox and PC, right? But when he says those other things, it opens up to speculation from these companies, which then, and everybody doesn't read everything. So when you have IGN and everybody talking about this, it makes it seem like all Xbox games will go everywhere, PlayStation and Switch, when that's not the case. But
it's ultimately the rule of thumb is going to be: is there a fan base for these games platforms already? Like Minecraft Dungeons. Minecraft Dungeons is going to PlayStation because Minecraft is bigger than Xbox, so it needs to be on PlayStation. Fans deserve it to be on PlayStation. Minecraft is a huge game and it's bigger than Xbox. That's Minecraft Dungeons is too big to not be on PS4 and Switch and stuff like that. But like for games that don't already have a fan base on those other systems, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think really when he's talking about stuff like that, he's talking about like Psychonauts 3 maybe, if they ever do one of those. Psychonauts is obviously synonymous with OG PlayStation, stuff like that. Like I could see like Psychonauts 3 being on all systems because that's the right thing to do for the fans. Now, like a lot of people would like to see Xbox be more aggressive and pull Psychonauts off that system, or like Nintendo have done and pulled Bayonetta off. Nintendo's thought process is like, we're funding this should be exclusive to our system, and that's fair enough. I honestly think like that's fair enough. But for a company as big as Microsoft, it's probably better for them to take the positive PR from supporting another platform than it is to make it exclusive. Because in Microsoft's mind, their console market is saturated. Like they don't think they can grow it anymore right now. So they might as well make the money they can on the existing user base while still serving those exclusive games for the fans where they're expected to be. Whereas games like Psychonauts and, Wasteland 3 is going to be on PlayStation 4 as well, I believe. And a lot of these games that were pre-contracted to be on multiple systems. But Rand, where this gets a bit fuzzy though, is the Outer Worlds. Because the Outer Worlds 2 is going to be a big game. Presumably, if the Outer Worlds 1 is a big game and gets a big fan base on PS4, and Outer Worlds 2 is exclusive, that kind of defeats the whole argument, doesn't it?
Yeah, see, this is what I think. I don't think most of these games outside of their contractual obligations will actually show up on PlayStation. Like, I think most of them will just be exclusive to the ecosystem. So my thing is like, why don't you just come out and say yes or no? Like, you get wishy-washy answers. You know what I mean? Like, even with Halo and Sea of Thieves, it's kind of wishy-washy. It's like, I think, those games might only be on Xbox. It's like, why don't you just come out and say definitively, yes, Halo's only going to be on Xbox and on PC. Like, no, these games won't be going to PlayStation in the future. Like, shut the door, because
I think partially is like they probably haven't even had those conversations.
Probably not, but I'm just saying perception rules a lot of this stuff. Like, I'll go back to 2013 for a minute. DRM, right? Not being able to play used games. That hamstrung Xbox for so long, because even after they removed that strategy, it didn't matter because people only heard about the bad thing. So they didn't know Xbox actually removed it. So for years afterward, you'd have people going to GameSpot and they didn't even know Xbox does allow used games. That it was never implemented. But the perception was reality for most people. And the perception right now is that Microsoft is going third party because some of their games will be switching over. That's the perception that you need to just destroy. You either need to come out and definitively say these games will only be on Xbox or PC, or And that's it. So you just be like, that's it. This is the end. There's no more speculation. There's no more of the stuff, because then that cuts out on the other things happening. It's a solid messaging. And you're right, they probably haven't even thought about any of that stuff. I mean, I know Ninja Theory. Remember when Ninja Theory put out their welcome video to Xbox? They're like, what does this mean for us? Well, it means for us that all of our games going forward are going to be on Xbox and PC. You know, they basically said the games we're making are going to be on Xbox and PC, but they also had a good, sizable PlayStation user base.
I think it's honestly like it's different with Hellblade than it is, say, for Minecraft and Psychonauts. Like Hellblade, it did well, but it wasn't a massive franchise. Like pulling that off PlayStation has less of an impact than pulling Psychonauts might. The Psychonauts, like, you know, for a lot of people, their Psychonauts experience is synonymous with PlayStation. And, like, it was announced for PlayStation already and stuff like that. And, like, I'm using Psychonauts as an example, because maybe there won't even be a Psychonauts 3. I don't know. We all know how Microsoft treats sequels. But for stuff like Minecraft, it's like you can't do that. You can't make that exclusive because it's bigger than Xbox. It's probably even bigger than PlayStation. You know? Minecraft is such a huge, colossal global brand, synonymous with every platform. It's just platform agnosticity is part of its brand, you know. So
I don't even really care. Like, I don't care if the games go to PlayStation. Like, I don't care. Like, it doesn't bother me in the least, right? But I'm just saying, all the people talking about it, like Phil Spencer and Matt Booty's kind of roundabout way of not saying yes or saying maybe, that has a little bit to do with it as well. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, they cause as much as because if they did definitively say an answer, then all these other companies and all these other websites would be like, all right, well, yeah, that's true. Halo's not coming to, PlayStation. So it is what it is. Like, I don't know, because this always comes up. Like, Xbox going third party. And why do people bring it up, Jazz? I mean, is it because Cuphead came to Switch and Xbox Live is going to be on Switch?
I think ultimately it's because Microsoft just behaves.
You know, they're different, right?
Microsoft just behaves different to the publishers because, and I wrote this in my article, is that no one part of Microsoft's business is so important that they can't risk it like that. Like, you won't see Sony play around with its exclusives like that because PlayStation is their whole business right now. Like, their TV business isn't doing that great. Their phone business isn't doing that great. Like, a lot of their businesses just aren't doing that great. And although they have been turning around, it's still, the PlayStation is still the backbone of Sony's electronics business. So, but for Microsoft, Xbox is just part of their business. It's like a chunk of their business, a big chunk, but it's still just a chunk. It's like they can do these things where it's like, you know what, we don't have to make Minecraft Dungeons exclusive because why don't we just put it everywhere for the fans and, rake in that cash,
Yeah.
We don't have to make it exclusive because the Xbox console isn't business critical for us. We can be a bit more strategic about it, on that basis. It's just different. It's not worse. It's just different. But a lot of people take it as weakness, or they see it as, like, in terms of us helping out an enemy sports team or something like that. And some people just, I don't know, it's seen in a really strange light sometimes. Whereas, like, you have to remember, at the end of the day, Sony's a Microsoft customer too. They pay for Office licenses. They use Azure technology in a lot of their stuff. They pay for Havok physics engine, which Microsoft owns. And Sony and Microsoft pays for, the Blu-ray consortium for Blu-ray access, and they buy Sony technology as well, and codecs and patent licensing and all sorts of stuff. There just comes a point where these companies are so big that competition is more like friendly competition. It's not like two companies hating each other. It's just the business reality is that they're not at war. It's them pushing each other to be better and do better for customers at the end of the day, because being better for customers is how you win the money. Yeah. Microsoft's in it to win it. And Phil Spencer said in his interview, Satya Nadella thinks aliens are consumers are aliens. He doesn't get consumers at all. It's evident from the way Satya Nadella's handled Microsoft that he's all about businesses and doesn't know a damn thing about consumers. And Phil had to basically convince him to not sacrifice the Xbox business. It was like, I don't know why we're in this business. I don't get it. I don't get gaming. And that's just the way things are sometimes. And Phil said to Satya that we're either all in on this or we're not bothering. And Satya was like, fine, let's be all in on it.
Yeah, but they weren't all in. I read that and I was just like, yeah, that was a conversation they had in 2014. They weren't in on all Xbox in 2014 or 2015 or 2016, Jez. You know that.
Well, there were like managerial problems.
I'm just saying, like, yeah, I read that too. And yeah, Satya didn't know why they were in gaming because the gaming wasn't doing anything for them. It wasn't a pillar of Microsoft Corporation. And Phil's like, we need to be either we're in this 100% or we're not. And so like people are like, well, that means they were in since 100% 2014. It's like, no, they weren't. Like they weren't in 100% on Xbox until 2017. I mean, you know that as well as I do. So,
I mean, yeah, but there's managerial issues, shall we say? But regardless, they're all in now for sure. And I think like some of it was Phil trying to turn Xbox into a company that could speak to Satya, which is why they do things like Azure Game Stack now, and they want to license their services and software and stuff, buying Havoc and stuff like that. And that's because that's the stuff that Satya understands. That's the kind of stuff that Satya's like, oh, we can sell those gaming services to companies.
Services?
I get that now.
Services and subscriptions? I love this.
Yeah, Satya's all about those services and subscriptions to businesses, And Satya, like, for Microsoft, it's kind of like Phil's turned the business into something that Satya can understand. But now that Satya's on board, he has to sort of translate that part of the consumer business into something that gamers will understand,
Yeah.
So it's complicated, and Phil's trying to like do a great job of managing Satya Nadella's expectations and managing Microsoft shareholders' expectations, but also managing gamers' expectations. And I wouldn't want to be in his position. Like, I wouldn't know how to do it. I wouldn't know how to do it at all. Like, how do you convince someone who hates consumers to support consumers? And honestly, the way the Surface business is being run kind of reminds me of how the Xbox business was being run at the start of this gen. Like, Surface doesn't seem to be innovating as fast as Xbox has been innovating. And that's because, like, I think for Satya, in some ways, he probably sees Surface now as he saw Xbox back then, where he's like, I don't know why we're in this business. I don't get it. Why are we in the laptop business? We've got our OEMs to do this for us. It's convincing Satya to make a play is all about showing him that there's a cloud business to support everything else that they do. And Satya can say like, and Phil can say like, look, these are the games we're showcasing that showcase the Xbox platform, and then we can sell GameStack to developers and all that sort of stuff. So it's just a big pipeline, complicated. But Xbox, like, third party for Xbox, looping it back around and finishing off the discussion. It's like, it's going to be the exception, not the rule. And it's going to be for games that have a fan base on those established systems. And I'm talking about a big fan base, and with a lot of passion there and stuff like that, like Minecraft, where it makes sense. Basically, you're not going to see Halo on PlayStation. But that's it. I think. Has Rand disappeared?
No, I was letting you go. But we had over like 400 people watching, so hit that like button. Oh, I hear myself again, Jez.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
You shouldn't know.
Hit the like button. Subscribe. Okay, yeah, I don't hear myself. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much our thoughts on the whole third party stuff. Now, Jez, I need to rant here for a few. You ready for a rant?
Yeah, I'm ready for a rant. Let's hit
Okay,
me, man.
there's two things I want to rant about. One is about Batman. Okay, so
Batman.
I don't know if you saw this whole Batman thing, but concept art for Warner Brothers Montreal's canceled sequel to Arkham Knight, a Damian Wayne Batman game, surfaced. Right now, Arkham Origins, which was the last game WB Montreal has made, came out in like 2012, 2013. I'm not sure exactly what year, but it was either one of those years. They haven't put out a game since then. Now, this leaker said that, hey, this is the concept art. So they had a canceled Arkham Knight sequel with Damian Wayne as Batman. They had a canceled Suicide Squad game. They had a canceled Superman game. But they are currently working on a Batman game, which is rumored to be Batman Court of Owls. 7 years, 8 years.
Isn't that a new? Isn't Court of Owls a new thing?
Yeah. All those canceled games. And then I look at Rocksteady. They put out Batman Arkham Knight in 2015. It's 2019. We haven't heard anything about what they're doing. That leaker says they're making a superhero creation game of some sort. What the hell is going on with Warner Brothers? How do you have Warner Brothers Montreal not make a game, and that game's probably not even coming out to 2020, so that's like 8 years, 9 years, have 4 canceled games. How do you screw up a Batman game? You have the blueprint. Your studio made a Batman game. Rocksteady made 3 of them. How do you cancel a Superman game? I don't know. I don't understand any of this. Like, I look at him like...
Put it this way, Rand. Put it this way. They had... Warner Brothers made a Pokemon Go Harry Potter game. And they screwed that up. You know? You think like the mother of all things that you can't screw up? They literally took Pokemon Go, the exact same game, and turned it into a Harry Potter game with Niantic's help. But they baked so many microtransactions into it, so much money-grabbing stuff into it, that it failed. That typifies Warner Brothers Montreal. Just Warner Brothers Publishing in general. They've become greedy, man. They have become greedy. Like, Shadow of War should have been way bigger than it was. But, like, it was just obviously a cash grab. You know, all the microtransactions options in the menus and stuff. And yeah, I know they weren't necessarily competing in the game, but like when you do get to that end game and it suddenly feels like, oh, I need to do all this stuff and grind. I can either grind or I can pay some money. You know, they've become greedy. Warner Brothers Games has become super greedy, and I don't know what's going on, man. Like, how do you screw up a Batman game?
How do you screw all that up? How do you... And Batman... Oh, God, I love the Batman games. I look at that stuff and I don't know how you screwed that up for so long. And it's just not one canceled game. It's like 4 of them. How do you... I'm
gonna tell you right now they screwed it up, Rand. I'm gonna tell you right now how they screwed it up.
Games as a service?
Yeah. They couldn't figure out how to turn it into a games as a service. That's gonna be why it screwed up.
Yeah, probably. But it's not just Warner Brothers and Montreal that are getting my rant. I have my eyes set on Ubisoft. Again. Because I swear to God, Jazz, this is all your fault. This is my
favorite part of the podcast right now.
This is literally all your fault. You know, this wasn't really a thing until you said Splinter Cell was going to come back as a mobile game. Right? So the head of Ubisoft, like Guillermo, I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly, and I don't want to know after this, okay? He said that Splinter Cell will come back, but the comeback will offer, and I quote, some new type of experiences, but more on different devices. It may not necessarily be the big AAA game that everybody wants, that the fans want, that the fans goddamn deserve. We deserve a AAA single-player Splinter Cell masterpiece with the original voice of Sam Fisher coming back. Michael Ironside, I blanked there for a second. A new story, new mission, a stealth game. And yeah, sure, you can do the games as a service approach and put in a multiplayer component of Spies versus Mercs, because that was always cool. You got my money day one, Ubisoft, but instead, they're talking about different types of experiences, new types of experiences, but on different devices. My boy, Splinter Cell, Sam Fisher has been relegated to a co-starring role in a Rainbow Six Siege mobile game. And now I feel, after seeing this stuff, that they're going to make a Splinter Cell mobile game for him. And I am going, Jez, if this really happens, I'm coming for you. You're on my hit list.
Why me?
This is your fault. This is all your fault.
Oh no. Not like this.
How? I don't get it.
Not like this.
I don't get it. I don't understand how you could take all these franchises, bring them into this gen, and the one you couldn't was Splinter Cell. I mean, you could look at what Metal Gear Solid 5 did, what Kojima did with that game, taking, stealth action into the next generation, copying that if you needed to have an open world as long as it was stealth. But they don't even want to do that. Instead, we're going to get some bullshit Splinter Cell game on mobile. Or, Jez, I'm lost here, man.
Yeah, it might be even worse. It might be a VR game.
Splinter Cell Go. It might be a VR game that nobody cares about. Oh my god.
What if it's like made by Niantic and it's like it is it's like an augmented reality hacking game or
I don't know. They have one of the more unique multiplayer modes in Spies versus Mercs. There's no other mode like it. Like, how do you not be able to do that well in this era? I don't understand. I don't get it. But yeah. You know what? I should probably just boycott all of Ubisoft's games until they somehow figure it out. I mean, Ghost Recon Breakpoint doesn't really look that interesting. It looks like an amalgamation of all their games recently. Hey, we got enemies with levels and a health bar. Hey, there's loot out there. Like, it basically just looks like a mishmash of all the stupid stuff that they put in Far Cry New Dawn and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It's like they're basically making... I don't know what they're doing. It's like they're turning all their games into the same thing. Ugh, this is all your fault. I agree, Raymond. This is definitely Jez's fault.
fault.
It's Jez's fault.
I don't particularly like the Ubisoft formula. I haven't. Man, their games are super formulaic. They're all pretty much, like you say, they're all sort of merging into the same thing. Thank God for games like Rainbow Six Siege, which are sorry, sneezed. Thank God for games like Rainbow Six Siege, which are a little bit different. But like all those open world games, they're so similar now. Like Ghost Recon is like so similar to The Division. Like it's hard to difficult to tell them apart.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll be the end of the show. But as always, we got questions coming up. Questions. If anybody wants to answer or ask us some questions, make sure you put them in chat. But for those of you heading out, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel before you go. We appreciate it. And this podcast will be up on Google Play and iTunes probably in a day or two. But yeah, Jez, 100 episodes. And you know how we cap it off with Splinter Cell going mobile. What a great present to me. What a great present. Hey, you need to have your little...
Some might say that you deserve this.
Yeah, I know, right? I do probably deserve it. I am a horrible person.
For being Randall Fraud, man.
Yeah. Randall Fraud.
And for being mean to Windows Phone, and for being mean to World of Warcraft, maybe you do deserve it. Maybe this is your punishment.
So 9 Lives wants to know, did you talk about the new studios? So I did see Cloberl say that he feels confident in at least one more studio Microsoft will pick up for 2019. I heard on the grapevine that there's 2 that might be announced at XO19. Who knows if it's true? But what do you feel, Jez? Do you feel that Microsoft is still going to be picking up studios and will announce them later in the year?
I know they're not done. I mean, it's a bit creepy, really. But let's just paint it down to journalism. I've been stalking people on the team who are in charge of acquisitions for Microsoft. It's totally journalism. That's just how journalism works. And seeing where they've been traveling, watching them on LinkedIn and stuff like that, and they're moving around, man. You don't move around if you ain't doing anything. So I would presume that Microsoft is by far not done with studio acquisitions. So I could totally see 2. What is the meme run? 20 by 2020?
20 the Discord era, reset Discord era, hashtag 20 by 20. 20 studios by 2020. I don't know if that's the beginning of 2020 or by the end. I'm assuming the end of 2020. But yeah, 20 studios by 2020. That's the meme. Let's see. DJ Singh wants to know why not giveaway. Well, I didn't have anything to give away, unfortunately. Like, I didn't even know this was a 100 episode until I looked. Yeah, I don't have anything to give away. I'm sorry. Maybe I can have something in the future, but yeah. I'm sorry, DJ. Snazzy Crowd wants to know, Jez, what is the status of the Xbox in the UK, pop culture wise? Do people still talk about it? Where does it stand currently?
Honestly, Xbox in the UK is pretty rough, I would say. Like, it's nowhere near as big as it is in America. I think like Xbox has retreated in every market except for America, maybe. I think like they've been struggling against PlayStation this gen. There's a lot of nostalgia for PlayStation in the UK, and like you could see that from Crash Bandicoot hitting #1 on the sales charts for like a million years. That's because like when I was a kid, it was bundled. Crash Bandicoot was bundled with the PlayStation. I don't know if that was the thing in there, but for a lot of kids, Crash Bandicoot was the first 3D game they played, and I think like Crash Bandicoot was like a huge game for Sony in the UK, because of that. But yeah, they've got work to do in the UK, definitely, and Europe in general. Like I haven't been like we can't really measure this stuff. It's all anecdotal, but I'm telling you, if you go to a supermarket in Germany, you can buy cards for Steam, you can buy cards for Switch, you can buy cards for PlayStation. They don't stock cards for Xbox because no one buys them.
Yeah.
So that's just the reality of it.
Axel wants to know, seeing as Halo is your favorite franchise of all time, did you go or are going to Halo Outpost Discovery? No, I did not go to Halo Outpost Discovery.
Wasn't it in Chicago?
Yeah, it was.
Well, why didn't you go? You live in that place, right?
I live, yeah. Because I didn't really think any of the stuff there that they were showing there was worth the money to go see.
Oh, did it cost money?
Yeah, of course. It ain't free.
How much?
Now maybe I could have probably gotten the pass if I said I was media and I could have made a video, but like there wasn't anything I really wanted to see. What I want to do is I want to go take a tour of 343. Like it just didn't interest me to go to Halo Outpost Discovery, but let's see.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Let's see. Double M wants to know, don't you think if the next Xbox console set has soft sales, they'll go full third party? I don't think so, but I guess it depends on what Microsoft sales projections are for Scarlet. I mean, or how well their stuff takes off. That'd be more a question to kind of talk about 6 or 7 years from now. Thanaros wants to know, what genre would you consider bleeding edge? And Jez, when will we get our new Windows Phone?
Bleeding Edge is an arena combat game, I guess. It's not really a beat 'em up because there are a couple of range classes. It's an arena combat game. Like you can feel the MOBA. It's almost like it's very close. It could have been a MOBA. I think like when I interviewed them, they actually said it was a MOBA in one iteration. You can really feel that. Although now it's more like an arena game, more like, subjective based, like Overwatch, I guess. And we are never getting a Windows Phone. We are never, ever getting a new Windows Phone. Never, although you can get Samsung Galaxy Note 10 with Windows apps baked in. So that's as close to as it's getting. No more Surface Phone. Surface Phone has apparently been completely killed. Don't know if you saw this, Rand. Pull one out.
Yeah, I did.
No Surface Phone for me. Rip.
UK Daz, shout out to Daz. He wants to know, Jez, what percentage beer do you get out of bed for?
What was that? Sorry.
What percentage? What percentage beer do you get out of bed for?
I don't drink beer because it's too weak.
Ooh.
I only drink whiskey and vodka, really.
Daz, he's calling you out. He says beer is too weak. It's about whiskey and vodka and all that stuff.
I drink to get drunk, man. Like, I tell you why, like, if I drink, like, cider or something, like, even strong cider, like, it's like 8%, I don't really like, it's not a great experience for me. So I just try to get completely blasted and then sleep off the next day. That's how I roll. I'm from one of those trashy places in Britain. where that's how we drink. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh well.
Axel says you're a fraud, Rand. I am. I'm Randall Fraud. Let's see
Randolph Road.
here. Silverburst Gamer wants to know, do you think we'll have an approach to RPG elements on Gears 5 campaign? There's so much lore to do that kind of stuff. Um, no, I don't think do you think they're going to do RPG elements to Gears 5, Jess? I don't really think so.
I don't think they're gonna do a progression layer. I do not. I don't think we'll see any kind of RPG progression. I do honestly think like Gears fans are gonna hate me for this, but I do honestly think that progression is probably the next step for that franchise. I don't think they can keep it just being a corridor third-person shooter. Like even if the next game's like wide linear and it's got much more open maps and stuff like that, I think that type of game sort of past it now. That it needs to have something more. Personally, that's what I think. Maybe even if they do it as a spin-off or something. I
Right.
don't know.
Right. Um. So let's see what else we got here.
Jess sounds like he has a drinking problem. I haven't drunk for months.
Mestro Shine was like, "What's it mean that they can't scale Minecraft and Halo Reach?" Oh yeah, I forgot about that. The Minecraft 4K update was canceled.
Oh yeah, God, we forgot to talk about that.
Yeah, we might as well talk about it right now then. What's up with that,
Yeah,
Jazz? What's up with
quickly.
Minecraft being shut, that update being canceled, and the fact that they're having so much trouble getting Halo Reach to work on the OG Xbox One?
Oh man, it's I don't know the details on why the 4K update got cancelled, aside from what they've said, which is that they weren't happy with it, and that's as transparent as they can get. Basically, I just think like it just wasn't performing that well. It wasn't like it wasn't in a position where they could actually ship it and stuff like that. One of the things that annoyed people about the announcement was when they said it didn't perform well across devices, as if to suggest that it was the OG Xbox One version holding it back. And like I always thought it was an X thing anyway. So
Yeah, I thought it was an X thing too. Do you think they'll revisit this with like Scarlet? Do you think they want to keep all the versions the same, which is why they couldn't get it working on the other ones, so they had to cancel it, or what do you?
well, the Bedrock engine is a complicated beast because like we've got the whole point of Bedrock is that it's cross-platform. They can update it on Switch, they can update it on Android, they can update it on iOS with one code base. Now, I imagine that trying to add a separate graphics system for specifically like features like ray tracing and stuff like that, I imagine that's quite difficult. But like as we've seen from like viral YouTube videos, that ray tracing is like has become this sort of ray tracing on Minecraft has become a big deal. Like, I don't know if you've seen any of these realistic Minecraft graphics trailers and stuff like that, Rand. Have you seen any of
I've
this?
seen Control's ray tracing stuff. It looks fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I think like they'll. I think they will do some sort of Gears upgrade. Not Gears. They will do some kind of Minecraft upgrade eventually, maybe for Scarlet. But I think like it requires more investment into the Bedrock engine graphically than they expected, and it's probably going to require some sort of more engine hooks than maybe they thought. Maybe they thought they could just bolt it onto the side. It seems like it was a huge technical undertaking to get that working. And obviously, all those videos we saw weren't in engine, they were concepts. So, it is what it is. It sucks. But, you just have to get it on the Java edition if you want to have those sweet ray tracing, super shiny graphics with epic shaders.
Yeah, Nine Lives wants to know if you'll be playing Blair Witch. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out on Game Pass when it comes out at the end of the month. Thanaros wants to know thoughts on Compulsion as a dev for Xbox. Geez, I've said this before, but they're the one dev I have major questions about. They're the one dev that I'm like, I don't know why you would buy them. But that's me. And we'll see. We'll see what happens if they can make their own game right from the way they wanted it with an enhanced budget. I know that they were looking for somebody who shipped AAA game. I'm not saying they're going to be making a AAA game, but I just that's the one studio that I'm like, yeesh, Phil. Like, I don't know about this one, buddy. You know?
I ain't got a huge amount of faith in Compulsion. They're kind of bogged down right now trying to fulfill contractual obligations to We Happy Few. They've got a few more. I think they've got like one more DLC to make for We Happy Few before they pack it in. I don't know. I don't even know anyone who's played the recent DLC. Did you play it?
No,
I don't know anyone who played it.
I did not like We Happy Few. I ain't playing no DLC for it. It's on Game Pass for any of those interested. But yeah, that's gonna be the show for this week. Two weeks in a row, Jazz. We're back on track.
Back on track.
Back on track.
We might not be on track next week because I might be traveling to stateside.
Ooh, well, that means I might have to do a solo podcast. But either way, someone will be back. We're trying to figure out the OBS Discord thing. Hopefully, it sounded better today. Shout out to everybody listening later on Google Play and iTunes. We appreciate you. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the podcast. Subscribe to the channel. Follow Jez on Twitter. Links are in the description for all that stuff. Read Jez's article on Windows Central about Xbox fans shouldn't have to beg for games. And hopefully we will see you next week. Right, Jez? Hopefully.
Yep, indeed. We'll see. See what happens.
So with that, we'll see everybody later. Have a great rest of the week. Have a good one, guys.
Take care, everybody.